back for our second conversation with Anne. We did our first one, but now this one I want to dig into a little bit more. Her kids and her book, because she said she wrote this book about dementia, and she has kids, and her kids went through some rough times when Anne was first diagnosed with dementia. And I imagine they also went some hard times when she was then told, no, you just have this other stuff, but you don't actually have dementia, Anne. And it's like, okay. So they must have had some moments of, what the heck?
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about the book. So tell me about the book.
The book came about because whenever I got diagnosed, I could not find any information anywhere for children.
Yeah.
There was some children's books, but there were picture books for Granny Granda, which are fine for wee young ones. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
But my children were living with it, and I needed more.
And trying
more
to
information.
help. I mean, they were living with it and trying to figure out how to help and how to stay
Yes.
out of trouble and how to get things okay. So it was not easy.
No, it definitely wasn't. And I just couldn't find any information anywhere. So, I mean, I had to tell them everything that I could figure out about it. And I know from talking to other people that they've had the same problems with their children.
Yeah.
Not being able to get any information for their children
And
either.
the info that you get is scary as crap sometimes.
It is.
I mean,
yes.
or else they treat kids like they don't have brains. And it's like,
Yeah.
so mommy's having some problems. It's like,
Yes.
please.
Well,
So here's what's happening. Sometimes mom, gets in the tub and then she can't figure out what's going on. And it's like, how does that sound to you? Does it sound sort of scary and frustrating? Or does it sound like she's just, so later on, if she gets really frustrated and angry with something, I wonder if there might have been something that led to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so tell us about Sizzlin' Bacon.
Well, my mind's went blank there. I started to write the book because I couldn't get any information.
Okay.
Evie was very small, so she was. So I had to be careful what I wrote the book for her, so that I could have it and give it to her, and she would understand what was going on.
So how old was she when you were doing the writing to try to figure it out, how you could talk about it and not be scary, but do be informative? How old was Evie?
She was 9 then.
So she was 9.
It's took quite a while to get the book written and published, especially with COVID, how it held everything up for a long time.
Yeah.
But I mainly wrote the book for Evie, and then I read it to her, and she really enjoyed it, and she laughed through it. And obviously I used her name in the book so that she would, have her wee moment.
Yeah.
So then I said, right, well, she really likes it, and she found it informative. I sent it to a couple of friends, and I said, would you please read this and see what you think of it? And they came back, and I picked somebody with dementia and somebody who knew absolutely nothing about dementia, and they both came back and said, yes, really loved it. The other person said, I understand dementia now a lot better. So then I thought, right, if they all like this, I'm going to send it to a publisher. If it gets accepted, that's fantastic. If it doesn't, well, I've lost nothing. It will help Evie. It's past a year.
A lot of courage there, and putting it out there. So first putting it out to 2 people, one person living with dementia and one who didn't know anything about. You got your feedback there, and then you took another step forward and said, well, what the heck? Let me do it.
Yeah. And I got responses back from a few publishers, and then I went with the publisher that I went with, and it was published. The release date was the 30th of November last year, So, and I've had loads of amazing response to it.
Now, the artwork in it is also cool.
Yeah.
So how did you do the artwork thing? Did they find somebody, or did you find somebody?
No, a friend of mine actually done the ideas, but then the publishers took the ideas and they worked them a bit more. Cool. So yeah, and then they sent the pictures back to me, and I was like, well, can you do this or can you do that? And yes, I wasn't an easy customer, to be honest. Even like, they sent the book back and it was blue pages. So I put a thing up on Twitter to say, can everybody read this with the blue pages?
No. the answers.
And then I complained to them too, it was all too compact and I needed it all spread out more. So yeah, I wasn't the easiest customer.
Well, good for you, because I think you weren't doing it just for any consumer. You were doing it for the people who might be reading this, who
Yeah.
might be having some trouble. So, I
Mhm.
mean, so for instance, I don't know how well it'll show up, but on my screen,
Yeah.
I did the
Mhm.
Kindle version, just because that's
Yes.
what I've got. And of course, I got it off
Mhm.
Amazon. And,
Yeah.
if you're looking for a book, I really like that you didn't just let them do a blue page with black printing, because that would not have worked well at
No.
all for many
Mm-mm.
people. So, I mean, you came at it from a unique perspective. And, if you hadn't held true to what you knew, then why write the book in the first place? Because the whole reason for writing the book is you'd had sort of some real life experiences.
Mhm.
So, do you have any parts that are your favorites, or that are Evie's favorites?
Um, I personally like the dementia based. I think children will understand something more, obviously, if they can see it and focus on it. And I know it's not real,
Right.
but it still gives them a focus and something to think, right, well, that's the dementia base that needs to be defeated. And I know this is like very optimistic, but for maybe in years to come, some children to read the book and think, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a scientist, I want to get rid of the dementia based, something like that. And Evie's favourite part of the book is whenever Mommy and Evie dance in the park.
Okay. So, the dancing
She
in the
loved that
park.
wee bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm looking for, yeah, let's see. They go to the park, and Evie's worried, and then they get to the park and you have some sensory experiences.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is it the part about where you say that there's a treat? You have a treat, or a little bit
Oh,
later?
that's when it's a wee bit later in that. It's
Okay.
whenever after Evie has used her magic dust and
Oh,
they all get to dance together in the park.
the magic
Yeah.
dust.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, that magic dust that kids have.
Yeah.
Because
At
kids
Christmas
have
time.
that
Yeah.
ability to suspend reality and
Yeah.
live in that moment of
Hmm.
pure pleasure, and
Yeah.
believe in things and do things and forget that people might be watching, and just
Yes.
have that ability to be present, truly
Hmm.
present. And that's
Yeah.
one of the gifts that dementia gives you, if you're willing to sort of like let go of all the other stuff and just be truly present in that moment, is like, oh, look, we can find each other. Look, isn't this a really
Yeah.
remarkable place to be?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't mind at all. I mean, even whenever Evie's still only 12 now, and me and her will still go to the park together, and I'm probably the first one on the swings. As I wrote in the book, they run around the park and they're catching snowflakes in their mouths and their tongues is hanging out and they don't care.
Yeah.
Because really, why should you care? Life is what you make it yourself.
Find your
And
joy moments and pleasure moments, or why are you staying alive if
exactly,
you don't find anything that's enjoyable?
yeah.
So, yeah.
And
So, and swinging, how are there days and times when swinging isn't a possibility?
oh yeah, hmm,
Yeah. And
most
so that's
definitely.
even more of a celebration then, because on those days, in those moments, it's all coming together in a
Yeah.
moment
Hmm.
that's possible. But it's only possible because you say, well, I can swing today. Not,
Yeah.
well,
Hmm.
yesterday I wasn't able to swing, so I don't know if I should get on the swing. Maybe I shouldn't
Yeah.
get on the swing because, I wasn't able to yesterday. And
Hmm.
instead it's like, well, let's see what happens when I get on the swing today.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm at the stage now too because I have the different illnesses. If I go and do too much, as a lot of people will say, you pay for it,
Yep.
and you pay big time for it. But I'm just that I don't care. If I want to go on the swing, I can go on the swing. I'll pay for it later. I'll worry about it later. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to have the fun that's in
You want
life,
to
and
have
I
the moments of
tried.
joy. Um,
Yes.
and you're not my only friend that lives with dementia, or lives with almost dementia, but maybe not dementia, but probably dementia, but we don't know for sure, but you're stable right now,
Mhm.
condition, that has decided, you know what, it is what it is, and it's what
Mhm.
I do with it that matters. And
Exactly.
frankly, I choose to live,
Yeah.
and I choose
Mhm.
to live to the best of my ability. And yeah, there will maybe payback. I
Mhm.
know that when I go out and do stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, quite honestly, it's like I'm not as spry as I was at 25.
Yes,
I have a plate and
exactly.
8 screws in my ankle because I made a choice and
Mhm.
it was probably not one of the better options. And it wasn't even the whole thing I did. It was doing the last climb of the night. And it was like, oh, I
Yeah,
probably should have stopped right before that one. But you know what? I
yeah.
still can do what I can
Mhm.
do. And it's during the weather. I know it's there,
Exactly.
but
And I just believe as well, there's so many things that you lose as you get older and you get ill, and especially with dementia, you can't, so a lot of people can't drive. I'm not allowed to drive anymore. I don't do much cooking anymore because I forget to turn things off. But I don't worry about the things I can't do anymore. I
I'm really
just
glad you
like,
don't have dementia. That's really helpful to not have to.
I just now do things that I can do and I enjoy doing, and that's life, you
Yeah.
know?
Wow. Well, that shows that, you don't so you've got something that's changing three things that have changed everything in your life. And yet
Mhm.
you write a book, not just for your own daughter. Yes, it's for your own daughter. But
Yeah.
then it was more than, I mean, if it was just for your own daughter, you would have read her the story. She would have the story. It would have been in a
Uh-huh.
diary and it would be done. No,
Mhm.
you decided to do something beyond that. So
Mhm.
Sizzlin' Bacon, if you haven't seen it, you haven't read it, you should pick it up. I mean, it's really a very cheap buy.
Yeah.
I know Anne isn't getting rich on this for sure.
No.
No, and that's not why she did it in a bit, but she did hold to a standard to do it. And it's a fascinating, really cool book. And it is a story for a child that is able to read and be
Yeah.
read to for depth and meaning.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a funny book. I mean, it's got lots of funny pieces to it and lots of really joyful moments in it. And it's designed to take away the fear,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
not make it be a big dark monster in the night, which is sort of how the
Yeah.
story starts off.
Mhm.
And it turns out it wasn't at all what anybody thought. So
No,
we'll leave you
exactly.
with a little bit of a cliffhanger. And again, and thank you for having the courage, once again, to not stop, to not give up, and to not go back into hiding, but instead to live your life as richly and fully as you can, but not only for yourself, but to reach beyond yourself for others. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank everybody else for being willing to take the time and the energy to pay attention to what we're saying and maybe share it with someone else. Take care till next time. And thank you.
Hey folks, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to help us spread Teeps's positive approach message around the world. And don't forget to click the bell to get notified when new videos are posted.